forward. Have yourselves a great day. We'll do this again tomorrow. Jets Patriots right out of the gate.
The rest of the wide receiver group is underwhelming. Kincaid's had some moments. They need a playmaker in the worst way this offseason. I know they keep trying to get it done or pick these guys off. Maybe Keon Coleman will be that guy. Maybe Josh Palmer will be that guy. It's not working. They haven't replaced Stephon Diggs, and it shows. And I think Josh Allen could use some help. So Buffalo Bills in the offseason, free agency, NFL draft, get yourself a big playmaker.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Notre Dame playing very well, in a position to crack the top 12. Now they have to take care of business.
Here's what I want from and again, we're going to go over who we think is actually going to make the playoffs here a little bit later in the show. But understand this, Joe. I don't want any ACC in there. I don't want any Big 12 in there. Just give me the Big 10 and the SEC. And Mike, quite frankly, if you just gave me Ohio State, Indiana, and the rest of the SEC, boom, boom.
Nah.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Let me ask you this. If they brought in Belichick, you don't think that... Yeah.
Oh, of North Carolina?
Yeah, they're playing much better now.
I wouldn't let him coach my kids. I don't even have any.
I tell you what, they would be more disciplined than what they are now offensively.
They'd be lifeless.
Yes, they would.
They'd be lifeless.
Yes, Brian Dable is a gutless head coach.
Bill Belichick came off a bye against
gutless
Clemson.
head coach.
3 plays in, they gave him 150 yards.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
But here we go. This is like, Pet Sematary. You guys don't remember this movie from the 1980s. But look, goodbye Tom Brady, I guess, wants to keep the generation alive. Couldn't he just have had this dog breed and just take the puppy of some kind? I don't know. But hey, Tom Brady does different things. Maybe this is just a signal for cloning in the future for humans. I'm not really sure here.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
FanDuel joins the prediction markets, plus Luka responds to Nico's ouster. Front Office Sports Today starts now. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today, your look inside the stories that are shaping the business and culture of sports. I'm Baker Machado here at Front Office Sports Studios in New York City, and this podcast is brought to you by Invesco QQQ. Changing the game has always been our game. You can access NASDAQ 100 companies in one ETF, Invesco Distributors, Inc. Well, first up, a big move by one of the biggest sports betting platforms joining the prediction markets wave in today's main event. Well, FanDuel says starting in December, they're going to launch a standalone mobile app called FanDuel Predicts. This will allow bettors the chance to get in on the other items besides sports, including things like the prices of oil and gas, gold, politics, and more. And this is prediction market platforms like Kalshi and Polymarket continue to grow in popularity. So joining us now with more is asset class author Ben Horney. So Ben, first tell us why FanDuel is getting into the prediction markets.
This is a fascinating story. To tell you that, let me kind of rewind a little bit and explain what this is, right? Because as you just mentioned, a bunch of stuff. Prediction markets, with regard to sports, when it's on a sports outcome, it's essentially sports betting, although by a different name. You can put money on the outcome of a sporting event. So it's like Knicks versus Magic last night. Who will win, Knicks or Magic? You're trading money on it. Mm-hmm. These places like Kalshi and Polymarket have been rising in prominence this year in particular. And it was hard to tell for a while, like how much of this is hype, how much of this is real. The entry of FanDuel and DraftKings shows that this clearly is real. These are the two biggest sports books in the country, and they realize they have to get into this.
So obviously you can bet on sports in these prediction markets, but they're not, I guess, sports books per se, traditional ones like we've seen with, Fanatics and all these other ones.
Yeah.
So what are the differences here?
So this all started, this kind of bubbled up last December, I think it was. It was before the most recent presidential election. So these places, Kalshi was offering political event contracts.
Right.
So you were able to put money on the outcome of the presidential election. And the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, which is a federal regulator, they sued Kalshi in federal court to say, you can't do this. This is betting on elections. And that was a whole high-profile lawsuit. Now that the administration has turned over, the Trump administration seems in support of this stuff.
Don't they have their own betting platform also?
Yes, they did. So the Truth Social is launching its own platform. There's a million platforms now. The two most prominent ones are Kalshi and Polymarket. But yeah, they offer trading on everything. Their claim is that it's like trading stock. And the kind of difference maybe between sports betting, although live betting does this, is that you can trade throughout the game and the price will fluctuate based on the volume of trading and who's trading on what. So it's a pretty complicated, I mean, it's not that complicated when you break it down, but it's a little bit confusing. I have a lot of friends who have asked me, like, what are prediction markets? I don't understand this at all. It really boils down to it's a form of betting. There's sports betting. There's betting on political outcomes. You can bet on whether it's going to rain in New York City today, how high the temperature is going to go. And there seems to be some real kind of interest in this from people. To another point you made, these are offered in all 50 states. So that's why DraftKings and FanDuel are getting into it, because Kalshi and Polymarket have essentially, well, Polymarket's not available in the US, which we'll get into in a second. But Kalshi has essentially found a loophole in the system. So sports betting is regulated on a state-by-state basis. Right now there's 38 states, and Washington, D.C. have some form of sports betting allowed. Sports betting was federally illegal until 2018, when there was a U.S. Supreme Court decision that struck down a law that had, banned it. But trading is legal everywhere. So places like Kalshi launched these event contracts in all 50 states, and they're basically daring regulators to say, hey, sue us, and we'll fight you in court. They are fighting in court in multiple states.
But these aren't like commodities that you're trading, right?
Well, so the argument is that they are, in a sense, although...
But they're not like a physical or even a tangible thing, I guess.
Not. It's different than gold, but also cryptocurrency is kind of considered a commodity.
True.
Again, this is where you get into the weird technical legal aspects, which these battles are being fought in court. Legal experts that I've spoken to say that this really may ultimately get to the Supreme Court to be like, okay, is this different than betting?
And just guidance of what to do here. And you mentioned Polymarket specifically, not a U.S. company. So how do they sort of fit into the picture here in the United States?
So Polymarket is a U.S. company, actually.
Okay.
It's not currently operating in the United States because under the Biden administration, in 2022, they reached a settlement with the Biden administration where they were offering this stuff, basically. They reached a settlement where they paid a $1.4 million penalty and also agreed to not operate in the United States. So they've been operating elsewhere in the world. I think they're available in something like 180 countries across Europe, all this stuff. They are planning to get back into the country.
So I guess for some people who are sort of trying to wrap their heads around all of this, sports gambling in states like California and Texas, two of the largest markets out there, it's illegal for sports betting. But predictive markets, that's legal. So then you have this situation here with DraftKings and FanDuel withdrawing from the state of Nevada. Why would they be going out of Nevada, especially given the fact that Nevada's sort of been always the home for a lot of gambling and invest or not buying things?
Yeah, I mean, Nevada has historically been the undisputed capital of sports betting and other things, right? That are viewed as not really okay throughout the rest of the country. Let me first actually give some more context for what is happening with FanDuel and DraftKings. So both of those companies announced these prediction markets plans. FanDuel's is going to launch in December. DraftKings might launch in December. It might take a few more months. And they are starting in the states where sports betting is not legal. So their view of this is basically we are dominant in all the states where it's legal, and that's still our primary product. But we see that these other companies are offering what essentially are sports betting in those other states. We're missing out on that. Basically, how stupid are we for not getting into that?
Right.
So FanDuel, their earnings call was yesterday. They specifically announced we're starting in the states like Texas, California, Georgia, where it's not legal. And as states legalize mobile sports betting, they will cease operations of the prediction markets. So they're just trying to get in on the states that they can't currently operate in. Now, Nevada has been staunchly against prediction markets. My best guess is that it's because it's sports betting and they're not happy with like a new entrant into the field. There's also stuff with this that we get into with Native American tribes. That's a big issue here too. In a lot of places, California and Nevada, there's been this sovereignty with Native American tribes having the right to all kinds of gaming stuff. But Nevada is one of a few states that sent cease and desist orders to Kalshi, Robinhood, Crypto.com, which are also in prediction markets, saying you can't operate this. In turn, Kalshi, Robinhood, and Crypto.com actually all sued the Nevada regulator. So there's 3 different suits right now going on in Nevada federal court where the companies are saying, you can't stop us from offering these. Kalshi got a early win in April where a judge ruled, Nevada can't stop you from offering this while the case plays out. The same judge, strangely, issued a ruling in the case with Crypto.com that was the opposite, saying, hey, if the regulator wants to go after you, they can do enforcement, which I'm not entirely sure how that happened. The Robinhood case, Robinhood sued the regulator in August, so there hasn't been any major rulings there. But so, like I said before, there's like this legal battle playing out. It's not just in Nevada, it's in New Jersey, it's in a few other states, in Massachusetts as well. So we're just going to keep seeing this rash of lawsuits. Everyone is waiting to see how judges come down. And like I said, ultimately people think this is going to go up to the Supreme Court.
In the last minute we have with you, how does this sort of evolve down the road? Do prediction markets essentially swallow up sports betting, and all of a sudden sports betting is just predictive markets?
That's a question that I've been asking. It's hard to tell. So one industry executive recently told me that this is a marathon, and we're at mile marker 5.
Wow.
He said we are in the very early stages of this, and it's really hard to tell what's going to happen. But just from what has happened over the last year, I mean, these things are on the rise, and they're not going away.
Right.
And if anything, the companies that are in sports betting see that they're getting into
Exactly.
it. So let's see what happens when DraftKings and FanDuel launch their products. What if, people migrate to those in all these states and they realize, well, wait, we actually like this better than traditional sports betting. The other thing, though, is that it's hard to, people are so used to the interfaces on DraftKings
Right,
and FanDuel,
exactly.
and it's simple. Parlays seem easier on sports betting, where it seems a little more challenging to do that stuff on prediction markets.
Wow, mile 5 of a very long race to go. We know Ben Horting's going to be all over that. And by the way, you can sign up for Ben's asset class newsletter over at frontofficesports.com. Ben, thank you so much. And coming up this weekend, the NWSL semifinals between Washington and Portland. We're going to get you a preview of that next.
Notre Dame playing very well, in a position to crack the top 12. Now they have to take care of business.
Here's what I want from and again, we're going to go over who we think is actually going to make the playoffs here a little bit later in the show. But understand this, Joe. I don't want any ACC in there. I don't want any Big 12 in there. Just give me the Big 10 and the SEC. And Mike, quite frankly, if you just gave me Ohio State, Indiana, and the rest of the SEC, boom, boom.
Nah.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
It is a sickness in this league. They stink, and they should stink next year. That's it.
But the expectation is to be a 9-8 football team.
So let's shake it. Why is that the expectation? They're garbage. And traded away 2 of the few good guys they have.
But they're going to get how many draft picks in the first round? 3 next year?
2.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Brissett has been that good. So this is a quarterback that I think is worth acquiring, but especially in Superflex leagues. If somebody's already got QBs passed by and Brissett's just collecting dust on somebody's bench, go out there, get him, because I think the next 4 weeks, some of the matchups too, he gets Jacksonville, he gets San Francisco, he gets Tampa. Those are going to be some higher scoring games potentially. Good news for fantasy managers who are trying to get Jacoby Brissett.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Today's prop was 15, right? And he's at 44. If you altered him to 20 or 25 plus, those are some big numbers. Like 15 and a half, like Jack Besh this morning was 11 and a half, and his number got bet up to 15 and a half. Tyler Lockett was 16 and a half and bet down to 15 and a half. If you just took a shot, like 15 to 25 is nothing. And next week, his number's not going to be 15.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today. I'm Baker Machado, and this podcast is brought to you by Invesco QQQ. In football, changing the game begins with rethinking it, like rethinking how players work on their game. And with wearable tech, advanced analytics, AI, and more, this same innovative thinking that changes the game could also change your portfolio. Invesco QQQ gives you access to the innovators who are rethinking the world, so let's rethink possibility. Well, it's been a very big week for the National Women's Soccer League as Atlanta was announced as the next city to get the 17th franchise in the league. This will start in 2028. Plus, it's been a very dramatic playoff race as the NWSL semifinals are this weekend. The Orlando Pride will take on Gotham FC on Sunday, and an epic clash between the 2-seeded Washington Spirit and the number 3-seeded Portland Thorns, who have reached an NWSL record 10th semifinal. That game is Saturday on CBS. So for a preview, let's bring in Thorns and U.S. Women's National Team midfielder Sam Coffey. Sam, thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations on reaching the semis yet again. How do you think you stack up against Washington this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, the Spirit are an amazing team. I can't say enough good things about them. I think we do match up really well, though. We beat them when they came to us. They beat us when we came to them. So it's been a really even series so far. But I think we're both really talented teams. It's postseason. Anything is possible. So, they might be more of the favored team. We might be more in an underdog position, but we also love being in that position because I think it brings a lot of freedom. So we're really excited for the game.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one. And I know you guys have had some epic clashes this year and in the years past. Portland, let's talk about you guys specifically because, as I mentioned, your 10th semifinal, that's an NWSL record. And really, you guys have always had sustained success in this league. What is the secret sauce that you guys are doing in Portland that you guys continue to be so great?
Oh man, that's a good question. I don't think it's just one thing. I think absolutely our supporters and the community that we get to play in is a huge reason as to why we're so successful. We have the Rose City Riveters. We have 20 to 25,000 people in Providence Park every home game day. So when you feel that you have that kind of support, I think as a player, you just sense this greater responsibility and also this belief that anything is possible. So I think that's a huge reason. And then I think our team does a really good job and has always done a good job of valuing the history of the club and the pride that it means to play here and playing for those who have come before you and honoring that history and that legacy of the players and the teams that have played in Portland before us and to uphold that legacy to hopefully continue to push that standard. So I don't know if I can name one thing, but I would say those are a couple of reasons why I think we've historically as a club been really successful.
Well, I do want to talk about the fans and the culture here for a second because there was a report that just came out this week that attendance for NWSL games overall is down 5%, but not for you guys in Portland. You guys still are the tops in the league. What really is it about the fan culture that continues to drive people out to watch you guys?
Yeah, I mean, Portland is it's just the best city. It's such a unique city. They're so passionate. I think as a female athlete, it is the best place to be because you don't have another women's sports team. The other sports teams you kind of tend to struggle a little bit. So I think the Thorns are the shining light for the city, which has always been just so fun to be a part of. But it's Soccer City, USA. The people of Portland know their soccer, whether that's Timbers or Thorns. They're out there in the rain, in the wind, in the heat. There has not been a game where I have thought the elements were going to affect the attendance that we were going to get for that day. But they just also pick up on these kind of nuanced pieces of the game. I think a lot of crowds, they'll cheer when you score, an assist or whatever it might be. Our supporters at Providence Park are cheering when there's a big tackle made or you escape pressure or these little things that you really have to know the game to understand. And so they're the best. I can't say enough good things about them. It's my favorite place to play and they're a monumental part of any success we ever have.
I want to talk about expansion in the league because, the NWSL is expanding at a really fast pace. We got new additions now in Boston. Atlanta just announced they got a team. My hometown in Denver is getting a team really soon as well. What do you sort of think are the challenges about bringing in a new team? And then are you excited for all these new teams joining the fray?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think it just means that we're growing and we're becoming more sustainable. And I know that was the goal for the league from its inception and the fact that we're now 10, 11 years in and we're nearing, 16 teams, which is insane. And so exciting. And I think we are absolutely in the best place possible to be doing that. I think challenges it presents, not every market is the same. You have the Portland's, DC always gets great attendance. Kansas City, there are certain markets, it's going to be crowded, it's going to be sold out. I'm curious to see how some of these markets do. I think that they do have amazing fan bases and just like great sports fans like Boston and Denver. Like Denver, I know is going to be electric. I think another challenge is going to be playing in altitude. But, and Atlanta too. Atlanta too also has amazing sports and soccer fans. So I do think these are cities that really love football and value it, and have been waiting a long time for a women's team to get here. And the fact that now they have that, of course, inevitably there will always be challenges, but I think the upside and the excitement outshines all of that.
Well, just to that point, when you look at sort of the next phase of NWSL, look, rapid expansion, this is growing. You've got media rights deals. The valuations of these teams are going up every single year. What are you sort of hoping to see sort of in the next phase as the NWSL continues to grow and get larger?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things for us as players that we want to continue to see grow. We obviously have a collective bargaining agreement. We've partnered a lot with the WNBA and some of their pursuit for continued players' rights. I think just continuing to increase the standards of professionalism in the league. I think where we have come from in the league's first year to now is absolutely night and day, and we're only continuing to grow in these things. But I think just continuing to be, a conduit sort of in this women's sports movement that is going on. And I think the league has been a huge part of what that is and what that means. And I think the more that we can continue to do that and push that forward domestically in the US as well as worldwide, I think then we're doing our job.
Well, the semifinal game this weekend on Saturday at noon Eastern time between Washington and Portland on CBS. Sam Coffey, such a pleasure to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Nice to talk to you.
And by the way, coming up on tomorrow's show, we're going to preview the other NWSL semifinal matchup, this one between the last two champions, the Orlando Pride and Gotham FC. We're also going to hear more about what it's like to be a rookie in the NWSL, that after the league got rid of its draft. But coming up next on this show, we have more on the Nico Harrison ouster in Dallas. That is, Luka Doncic offers words of advice for Dallas fans, and current Mavs coach Jason Kidd calls the fire Nico chant disrespectful. Plus, could minority owner Mark Cuban help the team pick its next general manager? We have Cuban's exclusive response to Front Office Sports coming up right after this quick break.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
No, but the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Fly Pelican, more like grounded Pelican. The Pelicans are 0-6 to start the season. Their main guys aren't their main guys. And it comes to a point where, what do you do if you are Joe Dumars and the leadership of New Orleans?
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You want to throw $12, $13 million at Kiffin? That's always a possibility. Summerall, they lost the other night to, in that matchup to UTSA. Or do you go back to potentially the mad scientist and Nick Saban, give him, complete control of the athletic department and see if he can turn it around? We'll see. But whatever they go, they're going to need a coach to hit the ground running.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF now.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF now.
So he's got an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 72-0.
Keep that dude away from polite society.
Okay, brother, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is.
Numerous Pops gotta go.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today, and let's get you caught up in some of the other stories we're following over at the FOS Water Cooler. All right, and joining me now is Front Office Sports Editor-in-Chief Dan Roberts. Dan, good to see you. All right, let's talk about Luka Doncic. Finally, talking about Nico Harrison's ouster with the Mavericks. He told reporters this week, quote, "The city of Dallas, the fans, the players, they'll always have a special place in my heart. I thought I was going to stay there forever, but I didn't. But I'm focused now on the Lakers." This, by the way, comes as Mavericks head coach Jason Kidd said it was disrespectful, all those fire Nico chants that the players were hearing. I mean, what do you think about all of
Well,
this?
first of all, what's Luka going to say, right? Of course, his focus has to be the Lakers. He's on the Lakers now. If people thought he was going to do a victory dance, like, haha, that's what you get, which is what people probably would hope to hear, they're sorely disappointed. He has to be a professional, and he is focused on the Lakers. He can't live in the past. As for Jason Kidd, what's funny about that is, like, he sort of has to keep saying that until he gets the new role, right?
Which would be a larger front office role,
and whether he's actually the Nico or whether they call it something else, whether it's just expanded, we'll see. But again, all these people, you're not going to get what everyone wants to hear, which is someone pointing saying, ha, 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 you reap what you sow, this is karma. And by the way, it sure took a long time, right? Now, the more interesting what happens next, or character or player and all this to me, is Patrick Dumont. And what he has or hasn't said, even to a kid wearing a Lakers jersey, sitting right next to him courtside.
It sounds like the kid said he apologized, took full responsibility for the trade of Nico Harrison, and I think a lot of people would argue, look, Nico Harrison, the general manager, probably wouldn't trade a star like Luka Doncic if it weren't approved by and blessed by the owner, Patrick
Well,
Dumont.
that's clear, and what also seems clear, and I'm just citing the reporting of others, is he basically trusted Nico and made Nico his guy, and he, you could say he bet on the wrong horse, or you could say he put his trust in the wrong executive. But it behooves him to get him out, and that way it's sort of like, all right, the person responsible for this is gone now. But as we wrote just yesterday, there's more problems with Dallas.
Well, I'm glad that segues perfectly into this because another former star has entered the chat, and that's Mark Cuban in all of this. There has been reports maybe that Mark Cuban is taking, which by the way, I think he has like a 27% stake in the team.
That's exactly
now.
right, 27%. Not nothing, but not the decision maker.
But maybe now he's taking on a larger role in terms of advising the Dumonts about what to do with the franchise. But we should mind everybody, it was Mark Cuban who hired Nico Harrison from Nike.
Right.
What do you buy this that Mark Cuban's going to be more heavily involved in the Mavericks?
That is what is pretty heavily implied in this first ESPN story about the Nico situation. It said actually that Cuban and Dumont have been talking more and have started to repair their relationship. It said that Cuban is basically back in the mix or about to be back in the mix in terms of basketball ops. What's fascinating about all that is it was Cuban who happily told FOS first that he didn't hear about the Luka trade until it was announced, when everyone else did, and that seemed shocking to people. I mean, when Cuban first sold majority control, he initially claimed that he was going to remain team governor and was going to keep being the decision maker. That clearly did not happen. And later what he said was that the NBA poo-pooed that. The NBA and Silver have denied that they, turned that down, or, Silver has tried to make it sound like, well, he was never told that Cuban thought he would get to still be the decision maker. All that said, Mark Cuban, in an email to FOS, said, I don't know who said that. Or what was the exact quote? I don't know who.
He basically said,
I
didn't say that to anybody, so I don't know where that came from.
Yes.
But look, it would make a lot of sense if it did, but he didn't really deny that.
But it sounded like, for now, he was suggesting that the ESPN story overplayed his involvement.
Interesting.
So are we going to see Cuban return to the fold with basketball ops? Let's remember, he's just a minority owner. He's just like any other minority owner, except he's not.
All right, Dan, let's tell everybody what we're watching today. On the Tube tonight, NCAA men, number 2 Purdue versus number 8 Alabama. That game, 7 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN2. Plus on the women's side tonight, also on ESPN2, number 11 North Carolina versus number 3 UCLA. And then we have the big football game tonight, Thursday Night Football. Dan,
Is it big?
I know you're going to be watching this. You have the New York Jets at the Patriots right now, who I think right now are the 2nd or 3rd seed right now in the AFC playoff picture. That game, 8:15 Eastern time on Prime Video. What do you think about the Jets versus Patriots?
I think we're leading the division. No one thought we'd be good this year. Year 1 of Vrabel, going great. Drake May is an MVP candidate, legitimately.
So far, the top of the list right
boy,
now.
oh boy, I'm loving it. You say it's the big game. I don't think it's going to be much of a game. It's also a home game for the Pats. I'm a guy who mostly starts to really pay attention toward the postseason. The NFL is the exception. I watch all the Pats games, but you mentioned a couple college basketball. I'm not going to be watching a lot of college basketball until we get closer to March.
Yeah.
It's too early for me. I'm not watching a lot of regular season NBA. Celtics are not good. We knew they wouldn't be good, but they're even worse than we thought. But the Pats are an incredible, pleasant surprise. And I think we could sneak pretty far into the playoffs, especially because I'm sorry to say the Bills are not good, and they're supposed to be good. The Ravens aren't good like they're supposed to be. So there's a real opening in the AFC.
And you don't have the Dolphins also to worry about either.
Right.
So yeah, the East completely
That's
wide
right.
open.
Tough Thursday night game though.
Right,
for most of the country, not a thriller.
That's right. By the way, also chilly in Boston tonight too, so not going to be the warmest of Thursday night football games. Dan Roberts, thank you so much, and thank you for watching us. We'll be back with more Front Office Sports Today tomorrow.